bit of life with me, and I'll do what I love till my heart stops beating. I'm feeding this demon. Got a taste, can't erase bitterness in my face. Work a job every day till your dreams fade away. Like a card, never change, play the game that we say. I need a break. I'm staying strong, need to move on to be what I want. I'll keep dreaming on. I'm staying strong, need to move on to be what I want. I'll keep dreaming on. Game face on when I chase like that. Yeah, I play so strong with a knife in the back. I'ma swing home run like a baseball bat. Gonna see me rise, you can hate on that. I don't play both sides, doing me no cap. I'ma ride or die for my dreams on tap. I'ma fly real high, you ain't see me slack. No, it's not how you fall, it's how you get right back up. That's how you get tough. Calluses on my hands so rough, yeah, I call your bluff. I'm not the one, mess with me and come out with none. Cause I'm so done, you had your fun. And now you're gonna face down the barrel of the gun. Cause I got a full clip, put your name on it. But I'ma let you slide cause you ain't worth it. I'm staying strong, need to move on to be what I want. I'll keep dreaming on. I'm staying strong, need to move on to be what I want. I'll keep dreaming on.
Today's latest story time, where we do stories by us or by you, the fans, or even requested by you, the fans. We do these each and every Thursday night here at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as part of our regular scheduled program here. We've been continuing down the novel 11 Kingdoms by us here at Embryo Arts. We put this out we started the novel back in 2013. And it was released in 2015. We're going to be re-releasing it later this year. This is basically a isekai story. A little bit of sci-fi, a little bit of mystery. Very, very much a bit of a different sort of isekai than you would see with anime. More severe, more dark, with a lot of good mystery here. But today we're only going to be doing one chapter because it's kind of the midpoint break. So this is sort of the point in the story where the first half comes to a conclusion, the second half begins of the novel, and we just wanted to kind of bring this as sort of a separate chapter to itself. So today's chapter is Kingdom by the Sea. Accessing personal logs, Fawn. I have a nightmare of the night. I stand bound, unable to help Reeks as the captain hacks away at him. The voice of Dark Mistress cackles within me. As the captain finishes with Reeks, he moves to me, fire burning the flesh from his face, and he shouts at me with his voice of his master calling at me, her sister. Then he pulls his axe back and brings it swinging down on me. I jar myself suddenly awake to my strange new surroundings. It's dark, just a little yet fading light on the horizon. I take a stab and guess at the time being twilight. I look about and discover that I must have had a spell cast on me to keep me asleep. I didn't even wake as I was taken to the room in the wooden fortress overlooking the coastline from a grand window. The room is filled with not the inviting smell of the ocean I recall from my youth. Instead, the room is stuffed with the smell of countless flowers that might adorn my room. Part of me questions if my hospital room is in the real world, even looks like an indoor flower jungle before me. I find it hard to move from place in the bed to open the window and relieve myself with a breath of fresh sea air. I pull the bedding away from my body as my arms are just about the only part of me not stiff and sore. I gasp at what I see. Despite the massive damage done to my body, from the falls and the swing of the axe, not but a small scratch marks my body. Yet still, my body aches in pain from the injuries, to the point I wince as I try to drag my leg that I stabbed, cut, and blistered the day before. Nearly jumped out of my skin, though, when the voice breaks the silence of just me and my groans. You should stay in bed, Fawn. Your wounds may not be healed physically, as they are in the game. It's concerned, but your mental strain is something else. I look about, trying to make out the poor person hidden within the array of flowers. Suddenly, I see a dark patch of her hair sliding out from behind a massive vase of carnations. A rough yet friendly face of Melissa steps into the light for the first time. I can recall the game is out of her standard guard uniform and is wearing a fairly girlish-looking dress. My head is still foggy in some details of the real world, but I feel confident that even if there is shock to see her in such an outfit. Melissa, when did you get here? I ask as I wince to move my leg back. I know in normal conditions I could take Melissa if I was in perfect form, but right now I think it's more of a fair game face-off with her on a mental level to face in a match of physical matters. I got here the other day. After the systems cleaning, I used the royal boat. When you're better, I am returning you to the castle. I find her words rather cold and distant to me for some reason. What of Reeks? Just saying his name draws images from my nightmare. Worse, the memories of me having to leave him, bleeding out and dangling off the ship. He's done quite a number on his leg, but he's fine. He should be back here tomorrow. He keeps asking about you, though, and the virus that you two had faced. The higher-ups are trying to keep things silent about the ship. Of course, your appearance before the public didn't help matters. I thought I told you to be cautious about what you faced when we last saw each other. I can tell now why she is distant. She's worried. She can't blame herself either. The battle with the captain would frighten many without the added risk of actual injury from its computer programming. But I can't shake that she's hiding something from me, as she refuses to look at me in the eyes when she speaks. So corporate's going to sweep this whole mess under the rug as just another incident with a virus. The plague, was it? I don't need an answer, but to this, I figure it might help loosen her up into telling me the part she's keeping hidden from me. Fawn, did you notice something different about that encounter from the other battles with the virus? I feel she's loosening, but at the same time trying to see if I can cave in and give up first. But I won't. I'm tired of sitting in the dark on the virus. Well, other than it was human, it was damn persistent to attack us. Not just me, but Reeks as well. And then there was the message from her, I explained. Yeah, we were tracking it through the live hack. But the damn signal was too damn scattered across the game's servers to lock it down to a single source. Tell me, did you ever talk or make noises other than that moaning? Or Melissa questions. I try to think back to the fight, to recall my panicked wheezing, but not just my wheezing. It was breathing heavy. Why? What does that have to do with things? Are you sure? Melissa presses the question. Yeah, surer than I can be. What does that have to do with things? It's a creepy noise from a creepy zombie pirate. I stand a bit confused. That's just it, Fawn. What you fought was no zombie, nor computer AI. I don't need a mirror to see that my face suddenly faded to sheer white at Melissa's words. So that is what Mistress meant with my first real kill. She infected a player character. A player in a silver tower was found with his head exploded in a similar spot to where you dropped the pirate. His head burst from the electrical charge buildup in his brain that suddenly burst out. Her previous experience of having looked at photos of her former husband brought home must have had her well ready to deliver this kind of disdainful news. Whoever is behind this all sought to have you to deliver the killing blow on this guy for some reason, making your actions in-game affect his Neuralink malfunction and cause him to combust through electrical shock. They're temporarily shutting down Crystalline to see if they can lock us down on clues on how the damn hacker did it. Melissa fails to see me as I curl up into a ball, covering myself in bedding, as I try to hide my tears from her. But surely she can hear the heavy breathing and sobbing in my voice, as I cry out at the blood that now stains my hands. I killed a man. I didn't want to. I find it interesting that I feel such remorse for a human that I've killed, but nothing for the entire computer-generated ones I fought so many times in the game. A soft hand pats my shoulder, and I can tell the warmer side of Melissa is showing. You didn't know what you were doing, sweetie. The hacker controlled the player. We think in some way. Sort of like how you were held after you're facing that woman the first time. No one blames you. I fully understand the meaning behind her words, but I don't find them in any way as comfort. Why don't I let you rest? I'll be on guard outside. Anything I can get you before I leave. I try to hide my tears as I try to wipe my nose across my sleeve. The windows, could you open them? I ask, with full confidence that it is something that I truly do want. If I could find a way to get my body back to moving, I would be doing it on my own, but still, I can tell my request makes Melissa giggle. You know, I can see the wind blowing and hear the waves crashing, but I guess you feel it all. It makes you recall home, doesn't it? She asks as her footsteps take her to the first window that somehow was hidden behind a pile of flowers near my bed. Almost instantly, I hear it, the gentle roll of waves, The gulls have gone quiet as the night sky settles in. They will find little more food tossed out by humans at this point, so they join a majority of the world and begin to rest. Yeah, if I had a choice to which tower, I would have worked other than Noyak's. I would have chosen this one. I think, based on the look of things, the few kingdoms I saw pictures of, this is the one that looks so much like home in many ways. I turned around and look at Melissa as she moves to the grand window and opens it from its place with this. A new smell of food on a fire begins to blow in the room. I take in a deep breath, ignoring the dull pain from my axe wound, and take in the smell of fried fish, bread, and roasted corn. I must have given a dazed look as the smell hit me, because Melissa seemed quickly to pick up on my distracted silence and possible light drool at the new smell filling the room. Hungry? Well, I guess I'll head down and get you some food. Might as well see about the medicine Gavin made for your wounds, and see if we can help you with some more. I watch as she has a slight smile, opens the final window before moving out the door. I sit first, imagining the food's taste in my mouth, long before I even gaze upon it. I take a deep breath and try not to choke as the fading jab of pain rises, and I breathe in a combo of salt air mixed with an overly fragrant smell of flowers. I try to focus on the simple tasks, but my mind can't help but worry over the actions of the past few days. For the first time in weeks, I have taken time to sit back and think about the events that brought me here. Without the threat of my life being in immediate danger, or striving for a single meal, I can finally lay back and rest. As I begin laying the puzzle pieces of the accident run through my head. For some reason, a homicidal hacker is using the game to disperse a virus. The virus in turn makes the game's monsters into a very real threat by activating and overloading the Neuralink connection. This makes matters worse. The hacker is hell-bent on creating a world they see fit here. Somehow, they're set on dragging me down with it, until they finally feel fit to destroy me completely as well. The virus enhances the abilities and statuses of ones infected, and drives them into some sort of blind berserk fury. But wait, that's not true. The virus can also affect players in the same way, and take on over the character's true form, by going on playing as them. My God, is that what she means? Is that I am truly not Jamie Eve, or even Fawn Midden? I am one of the virus creations, like the pirate captain? I act unlike them, though. I have free will. But do I have the same power that they do? My mind races once again at the very thought that so controlled it in the last few days. Who or what am I? I look at the reflection of my current form in the glimmering glass of the massive window that now lies open with a curtain flapping in the wind. I see the raven dark hair with highlights of purple strand, tied off in beads, lining the porcelain face, the royal crown adorning my forehead with its blue oval stone, the leather and steel shoulder pads, led down to the breastplate over the skimpy collection of pink robes and skirts. This is the form of Fawn Midden, as she was created. Looking at her, the new me, I can't help be lost in the flow that is created. Am I truly Fawn? Or does some part of Jamie still exist? Does it even matter to the world when the face as the goddess they worship dwarfs the human's life at play. Am I what I make of the world, or is it the world that makes me? I am truly a creation of the game, or am I part of the virus set on destroying the world? I start to grow disgusted at the thought that I may be a part of the very virus, but I do my best to free my thoughts of the problem before me. Right now, it's best to continue on the plan and to act as I have. After all, the fact remains that Jamie Eve, the real one, lies in a hospital bed, barely holding on to it life herself. I share her memories and thoughts, and until I find out more, till I find a way for me to leave the game and return to that body, it's best just to play the role of the trapped princess of the Onyx Kingdom. Just as I finish making the decision up, Melissa returns with a tray of food, several fruits diced in one big bowl, alongside with a fish wrapped in a massive palm leaf, and a small bowl of rice. She includes a glass with a strange bottle that she halts moving forward and places the bottle in the place blocked from my view. She pours some water from a pitcher into the glass, while I hear a plopping of something into the water. I take notice that no ice in the glass from the distance means she's more than likely wanted to guarantee that I took something with my meal. I recall her back to her saying that Gavin made some kind of medicine to help me. I can't help but feel like Melissa is starting to treat me like a child after receiving my latest injuries. She walks the food, now tainted drink, and places it down on my lap. There, eat every bite. It's been a while since you last could eat on your own, after all. I look puzzled at her. I just had a meal with Reeks back on the ship last night, I say, trying to tell her that I can take care of myself when needed, even though it was Reeks who was the one providing it at the time. But I'm shocked as she laughs and grabs a chair and a bottle, dragging both to sit near the bedside. That was 5 days ago, Fawn. You slept all this time. We were kind of worried about you, about feeding you, and have been giving you broth for the last few days. But given the injuries they brought you in with, I can't blame you for resting that long. Given it's the game, but Reeks was passed out in the real world for 2 days himself. I think back to the fight. While I didn't have a good view of the battle, I do recall Reeks having his leg torn by the pirate captain. The virus affects the Neuralink. I can't help but wonder what happened to Reeks on his end. Eat, Fawn. Reeks will be here tomorrow, and you can ask him about his injuries later. But for now, you need your strength back, so we can get you to return to Noyax. I take the fork and cut the fish and pull apart the fleshy outer skin. Steam comes out from the pulling as the flaky white muscle and slender bones appear. I go about tearing off the morsel, taking a bite. Its salty, smooth flavor flows through me. But unlike the meal on the boat, I find it hard to devour the meal quickly. The thoughts trouble me and weigh heavily on my brain, filling my stomach in its place. I do my best to try and avoid drinking the water, as I find a touch of me on the cautious and with the medicine within. But the fish's dry, salty taste causes me to choke, and I begin a coughing fit, and Melissa moves in with the glass filled with the poured mixture. Now that I've tasted it, I am in many ways glad Melissa poured it down my throat, as it gave me the least amount of time to keep the disgusting taste in my mouth. I move quickly for the fruit to release my suffering from the aftertaste. Avoiding the medicine won't do you any good, Fawn. I have ways to get you to take it in any form. It's not that I don't doubt your concern, but I don't feel medicine from the game can help me. I look at her sternly as she places the glass down. Fawn, Gavin crafted a special medicine, just for you. He sought to introduce a special code to it, to help release the pain by removing it. But you have to not fight it to take its effect. She looks hard at me, as I should be in some hidden joke between us, but somehow I just keep missing her punchline. I try to think, then something comes to me. Wait, you mean that I drank some kind of antivirus program? I sit a bit shocked at the glass. In a manner of talking, it's more like a systems repair. Gavin used the info we gained from a copy we had on the hand of your character. He plans that he could make a copy that restores your form perfectly to normal this way. But you have to be aware of it and accept its help, or your body will reject it. So, I'll go and get you some more water and drop another dose. And I want you to take it willingly, okay? I decide not to fight her. Yet, I raise my hand before she places the second pill in the water. Then, I move my hand out to hold, asking for the pill to be placed in my hand. Taking the pill and then followed up with a glass, I grab a small helping of the fruit. Toss the fruit in the glass and try my best to mash it up, turning the water into some mushy, fruity drink. Tossing the pill in my mouth, I hastily choke it down with the fruity creation. That's better, she replies with a relaxed tension in her face as she reaches down for the bottle at her side, pops it open, and begins to drink from it. You know, you're creating bad habits in most of your friends, making us worry about you. It doesn't take me long to guess what the bottle holds. But I do have to wonder if Melissa isn't sitting with a bottle similar to this one in the real world as her speech gets mixed. You really shouldn't drink like that, Melissa, I reply with a look of disgust at my friend's new habit. What do you want me to do? You go and get yourself trapped in this world, leaving the gang to worry about you. All I ask is if you come across the plague guys that you will flee. But do you do that? No. You act like the big shot and even get your cover blown after 3 days of this mess. Now with the higher-ups are all in our business, and where's our fearless leader? I get puzzled by her words as she lifts the bottle to take another long swig from it. Rick, what does she mean? Has Rick gone missing? I'll tell you. He's off playing with his new clubhouse upstairs, locked away from us. If it weren't for Reeks helping out, bet you none of us would be able to wipe our butts right now. So don't you blame yourself for this. Besides, I didn't just start it. Just fell off the wagon for a bit. I push away the tray of food at the thought of how this is affecting the lives of my coworkers. I've never even knew Melissa had an alcohol problem. But given her past with her dead husband, it doesn't take much to understand why. The two of us just sit there in quiet disgust at the whole of our existence. Eventually, Melissa takes the tray, and I roll over to go to sleep, waiting to hear the news from Reeks in the light of the next day. It wouldn't be until lunchtime when I would hear would learn about the words Melissa spoke to me. For that would be the time that Reeks finally returned to the game. I spent the morning placing great strides towards making the way to the restroom on my own. I celebrated with a great pride of only needing the assistance of a servant for a brief moment. I had taken to the floor when I tried to push my legs, which had gone unused for a better part of a week now. Despite my great strides, Melissa made sure I would return to the confines of comfort that is the bed, from where she could keep a solid eye on my actions, my results, and needs. She just grabbed me a simple lunch of some rolls, goat cheese, and fruit when Reeks knocked on the door. Arguing with Melissa as much as I could in the morning, I couldn't lessen the clutter of flowers, so I was stuck looking merely at Reeks' blonde locks of hair to identify his arrival at the door as Melissa opened it. "How's she doing?" Reeks asked with a calm hesitation. I haven't heard from the normally brash, ego-driven man. "She's returning to normal." "Are you sure you are okay with her learning about this?" Melissa had some current concerns in her voice. "I'm missing something that the two of them have shared out of my earshot, either in the game or out in the real world. I'm stuck trying to figure out the puzzle from across the room." "She needs to know. We can't let her stay in the dark. Besides, Rick's too busy to look in on her, and he asked me to act as the middleman for him on some issues the task force has taken with the virus." I watch as Reeks moves past Melissa, who doesn't put up a single struggle to keep him back. I watch as he seems to be moving funny. Then I see it. Reeks' left leg. It has been replaced with a peg leg. My eyes widen and my mouth quickly follows their action. "I know, but don't worry. It's not like this in the real life, Fawn. It's just I didn't have enough time for rehab. So I made a slight character at it. I think about it, what he means about the real world, and his leg must be like. The virus proved its power in that battle. I'm really surprised you all are still with us. They told me when the medics got me, my leg was bleeding from a massive burn. Then it burst open, and I had another in my chest. Both mimicked the wounds that I had received from the battle from that monster." I cringe at his words of calling the captain a monster. A day ago, I would have agreed with him, but now I know the truth. I only feel pain and sorrow for what we faced. Did the player know what they were doing, or did the virus imprison them? I try to ask what Reeks feels about my killing another person, but the pain of regret keeps my voice mute on the subject. All I manage to speak up about is his leg in real life. "What about your injuries in the real world?" "Well, given I was being monitored, well, both of us, but that's something else. But with the others in the room, I was able to have a medical professionals treating me the moment the virus let the system release." This fits the report the girl who treated me early on told me about, how he had just vanished upon pulling him up. Likely once the captain was dead, the virus dispersed everywhere, letting whatever locked him in from leaving beforehand to be released. It was strangely similar to the moments I had when I was attacked, unable to release the system, or even pull the restraints off my body. My chest injury was minor, but it caused a good amount of blood loss. But the leg was another story. It was replaced with a top quality model from the medical labs. Needless to say, The higher-ups are going crazy about the whole issue. We had to make a cover story saying we hired some temp work for your character to try it out for future storylines in the game. Rick's worried Gail may change her mind about deciding to let him handle the situation. So you've seen Rick? Melissa's been saying they hardly see him at all. I ask with eager excitement, hoping the news can clear some of the puzzle pieces for me. Well, Rick and I are on the investigation team, looking into the accident, the virus, and who is behind it all. Like I said, you're being monitored in many ways. We currently still are. A hacker of our own is watching the code for abnormalities in the system, while a team of legal investigators combs through the files and info of the suspects. Not to mention, it seems your feed is still active, tracking and watching you. We prevent its release to public view, but the staff and anyone at Black Clover's clearance can still watch you. I never really found the code as something interesting, yet to hear Reeks describe it made it seem like the team was the one of those Hollywood always portrayed being put together to hunt down a loose killer, and in many ways they were doing just that. What about Rick? What does he do? I ask, but imagine him as a gallant, unshakable leader of the team hunting down the virus, off to rescue the helpless victim. He's monitoring the system for virus reports and spikes. He barely sleeps, more so since the recent battle we've had. For now, the company is setting a quarantine area upon appearances of the virus. They ought to release any player in the area and try to watch it without neurolinks active, but with a game slated for release in 4 months, it's only going to become a harder thing to watch over when billions of players join the game. He also is working on an antivirus, from what we know. The game is still moving forward, it looks like, despite the bad publicity of my accident and the recent one. They plan to move forward. Can the company truly expect the virus won't be an issue? Or do they have a scapegoat in place already? The whole situation makes me feel greater uneasy pain. And I have the question now, if the hacker isn't one of the company's own, out seeking to destroy the world by taking hostage of many players in the game world. No, that would be too easy to predict if that was the case. While the idea of evil corporations is pretty much common discussion in the news and the plot in many Hollywood films, more often it's the actions of one person or a group outside the company trying to make things seem that way. It's easy to place the blame on someone who looks guilty with deep pockets than to blame people who are the ones to overlook matters. Such was the case when Black Clover came to rise in the war-torn nation during the end of the War of Ideals. Black Clover started as a medical supplies and robotics company that supplied the military, if not just the U.S. and Israel, but took advantage of rebuilding of the Arab states in Central America. The pockets were big enough at the time that they could buy off the politicians at the newly reformed United Nations to have the political pull needed to increase the product's use and need by the world. They're able to buy the same people who held back on the United States rebuilding its own political power in the world to look the other way as Black Clover went on to a frenzy of buying up failing industries. But for what evil the money was tossing around behind closed doors, Black Clover was used the new power to restore some lost power to the U.S. from the damage it took during the war. It was amazing how the size of the company has expanded, blinded people to the charity and goodwill efforts Black Clover was doing. They set up food production centers in the Midwest to aid many countries suffering from the new ice age, as the media called it, enveloping Europe and parts of Asia. At the same time, their medical technology helped alter the way many lived their lives, giving many a chance at a normal life after a tragedy of war. Even now, with the actual major prize of the game as a charitable gift or contracts for countries of the world based on player rankings in the game or slated as a positive good, the public belief that they wanted to see and what they saw was Black Clover was a blight on the world environment and politics, enslaving people with promises of jobs, medicine, or food. They sometimes hated the people who were so blind to the world that they claimed that they were trying to protect it from an evil corporation, that they failed to see the good that they were trying to stomp out, that was helping many people in need. Still, having watched the first-hand twisting of the words and perception that Gail performed with me, I couldn't help but feel if anyone in the company was evil, it was her. Yet I seriously doubted she was behind placing me here. What would she gain by losing the public relations darling she worked so hard on the last few months? No, Gail was not one of the people behind this. I could feel it, but Reeks was about to give me a short list of people who were. We're doing all that we can. We've narrowed down things a bit. First, we know whoever the hacker is. They know the company's set up for the game very well. So, while the idea of the hacker being an outsider is not completely off the table. However, it's a strange opinion that the hacker works within, or a stronger opinion that the hacker works within. My already sour stomach causes me to push aside the food from the bed as I feel the names I am about to hear may include ones I counted as close comrades. First is the biggest target we're looking at, is Lee So. I looked puzzled at the name. Isn't familiar to me at first. Then I try to think who they may also be, as they are all live double lives here in the game. You may remember him as General Min Gang. Shock on my face disappears. As it is well known, the discourse between men and me in both worlds. In many ways he considered my rival, but I find it hard that he is behind it, as I face Dark Mistress along with him, and even he looked rather puzzled at her actions. But that changes when Reeks continues about why Min is selected for the top position. It has become knowledge that one of Min's people was caught trying to sell insider info on the game's code. He has a history of being a hacker for the Chinese government. However, his appearance at the time of the attack makes it hard to place him out as our hacker, but the next few had plenty of chance to pull it off. I watch as Reeks finds it hard to even come to the words, and faces seems to drop in disappointment. The one that seemed fitting to the puzzle more is Masaru himself. While he was projected into the game, it would be easy for him to set up a dual computer program to display one version of him, while he acted as the hacker attacking the game. I find my face isn't alone in the shock as Melissa jumps up from her seat and is ready to punch Reeks, who takes no action to avoid her threat. The game isn't fully the world he wanted. and some believe he took action by destroying the icon of the game. But he loved Jamie. He was a key figure to call for Fawn to become an icon. Melissa lowers her fist, instead kicks her chair to calm down. It's true. But a secret was kept from many. Outside of his assistants was that he is growing senile in his old age. And Emmy confirms that often he has even destroyed his office in frustration of how the game has become unlike his visions for it. I shake my head in doubt that the game's creator could be the one behind it all. Reeks takes notice and tries to comfort us in his last words on Masaru being placed on the list. I have my doubts, as does Rick. Both of us worked with him in the past, and while he's been known to get upset over the results of some of his games, he's never once asked to remove himself from the game. Even his biggest mistakes still carry his name. He wears his failures with pride along with his successes. I slump in my bed, tired already, but knowing the next few names will only cause equal frustration on my part, given because of our dismissal, as well as our skill. I have to say, both Rick and my name are also on the list of suspects. While I can try to account for my whereabouts and not being part of it, as I was alone in my chair, and my slow actions during the attack created alarms. I recall Reeks in the meeting of the kingdoms, and how he spent most of his time just trying to study the situation over jumping in the fight on the half of us that was preferred to sort things out after the pixels were blasted away. As for Rick, since he was logged off the game at the time, it's well known his anger about how the game was imprisoning you. It's decided maybe he acted in a way to show up corporate for their choice of actions. This time both Melissa and I stand silent, as we know all too well Rick's anger, having witnessed it the day we tried to escape. I'm sure she, like me, is in doubt of Rick even being considered as a candidate. The last two people are also people you know. First is the least likely candidate, as he has no real code knowledge, but due to some emails he sent to HR about Fawn, he made the list. Gabe Jones. I stand puzzled at first, then I recall the name of Gavin. Only he lived in his fantasy world beforehand, and asked us only to call him Gavin. So it's been so long it was hard to recall his real name. But now I stand puzzled at what he wrote to HR about me. Perhaps when we get out, I can have a long one-on-one chat with him to see what his problem was. But the final name is the one I find a bit of a shocker. The final name on the list is Bart Hauser, your tower's overseer. While a graphic artist himself, Bart has some knowledge of the game's inner coding. He's also the only member of Onyx Tower to not have a character in the game. Worse yet, it's figured he may have attacked you in an act of revenge against Rick for the day before. Rick and Bart never did see eye to eye. Much in the same way I am with Min, Rick treated Bart as a person that cheated his way to the top. Melissa had told me the incident when he ended up clobbering him in the eye after the accident. It only seemed fitting that he would seek revenge on our team in some way. Only the timing seemed off for his reason to be on the list in the first place. There it was, the list of likely candidates behind the attack on me. Min, Bart, Gavin, Masaru, Reeks, and Rick. In many ways, I should be relieved that mine and Melissa's name didn't make the list. nor did Moses or the twins. But I could fully understand. I know the twins look at me truly as a member of their own family. Melissa is showing she is more distraught about my death than the victims of the earthquake. And, of course, I lack the computer knowledge to do it myself. Then there's Moses. I haven't spent much time as I cared with Moses. The two of us were near in our age and group with Gavin, but Moses was all the sense of the word, a code junkie. I do remember once on a dinner trip we talked about our pasts. Both of us seemed uncomfortable on the subject, but my therapist suggested I try opening up more within uncomfortable situations. And I felt it was better to embarrass myself with one coworker that had a relatively quiet, for the most part, or that was relatively quiet for the most part, than to give it some info like Gavin, who was, despite his speaking problem, still found ways to blab behind my back, even sometimes in front of it. I told him the story of how I got my signature black splotch on my hair, in an attempt not to tell anything I found too embarrassing. In a way, he responded by telling me a story of his time growing up in Brooklyn. How he was watching his friends grow up since his days in diapers, join a gang running around the neighborhood, working for a drug dealer he called Tootle. He said one day his best friend had a job for Tootle to get a hold of some merchandise fresh off the heater and dispose of it. I still confused what he meant. Being a girl who barely spent a day of childhood outside of a place where the coldest temps you got were the low 60s. He laughed and explained that the items that they had to get were recently stolen, and the police were hot on their trail of it and of the ones responsible. He figured it was an initiation mission for him to get it into the gang, but Moses didn't like the idea of helping his friend and refused to help. He would later regret not helping, as a friend decided to take the merchandise and hide it right at Moses' house anyways. With the cops right on his heel, Moses didn't know the item they were talking about was a gun used in a recent gang shooting, till the moment the cops tracked his friend to his door. When both he and his friend were taken into custody, the friend tried to play innocent and placed the blame on Moses. In a bit of good fortune, however, the evidence proved Moses was just caught up in an all by accident and was set free. His friend, however, seeing no aid from Moses, decided to go to revenge on his unwilling friend as was needed. So he dubbed Moses a snitch to his gang friends. And in the world of his urban home, being a snitch is the worst thing one could be and still be walking around free. Moses closed himself in from the world, only going out in daylight with the company of his family, and would run home each day from school, all to stay safe from the torments of the attacks that he would get from the gangs of the street. In his quiet days at home, he found his love of writing computer code, and in many ways thankful for the street gang pointing him to his true high. The thrill of creating something from a small collection of numbers and variables. When I asked him if he even thought about fighting back at the gang, he told me the very friend who almost got him arrested learned the hard way of his choice and died in a drive-by shooting at the age of 14. The room remains quiet after Reeks named the list. I'm the first to break the silence. I need to do some investigation of my own, of these people. Given Bart is not playing the game, I have to rely on what the team finds. But I can't sit by and let my hunter keep hunting me. You sure as hell can, Missy. I promised your mother I'd keep you safe. and alive in the game. I can see why you don't like to fight with her now, but a promise is a promise. So from now on, you're under my watch, and once you're good enough to be on your feet, we're headed back to Noyax. Melissa must have gained more than a promise from Mom, because while my memory of the real world is a hazy one, thing that I never forget is her way of staring me down when I did something disapproving of her. It's a look I have come to learn how to avoid by agreeing only to find my first way to rebel when the moment next presented itself. I didn't know how Melissa would react, but this will be my way of handling the situation anyway. But I needed to fall back and make a plan of action. 2 of the 5 on the list are back home in Noyax anyway. And another is right before me now. So I responded to her demands with a quiet nod of agreement. I will be sure to drop in and check on you as much as I can. As much as you want. Reek swabbles to a standing position and leans over to me. Then in an unexpected action drops down and kisses me on the lips, adding to the many times he's shocked me to the point of making my heart nearly stop. Consider that my payment for saving you the other day. My face lights a pale shade of red and begins to build both in heat and anger, but also in something more. It takes so much time to even after he leaves the room until my heart returns to what I could call a normal rate. I stand puzzled at him. This wasn't the white knight on the day before. This was the arrogant jerk that forced me into a relationship all over again. Yet my heart, while upset as his thief-like actions on my lips, my heart still said it wanted more. Just before he left the room, he turned to where he knew I could see him and flashed a grin. Too bad it ended this way. Figured if you were still on the outside, Central may have us prepping our wedding for the release day. Till we meet, my fair princess. I'll only be a pleasant dream away. Despite his newly crafted peg leg, he moves with good speed and out the door, almost dancing in a way, an act of glee. Well, he's something now, isn't he? Melissa tries in an attempt to bring me back to our current plans before us. Okay, I figure a good test of skill for the afternoon is to get you downstairs and out to the garden for your supper tonight. Meaning your first task is to get you to the bathroom for a bath. And this time, under your own power. Simple task, I tell myself. But given my failure in doing it this morning, and now, with the added effect that my legs feel even weaker after Reeks' kiss, I might as well be marching miles through a desert with no water, and try not to fall once as I make my way over the loose sandy dunes. I sigh and turn my body and drop my feet on the floor. I push myself up with the aid of the headboard on the bed, and soon am standing under my own power. Then I take my first step. File source end. Accessing linked materials. Security camera, Onyx Tower, floor 49. Accident investigation team. Rick Mathers sits in the computer station. Half a dozen off of his eyes, locking on the monitor, flash about his images of the area throughout the 11 Kingdoms. An orange powder has collected in his newly grown beard, and a bag crinkle as he shoots attention with a fresh cup of coffee placed in front of him by an equally sleep-deprived yet cleaner-looking Agent Esteban. If you're under my control, I would tell you to leave that cup be and get some sleep, the agent says as he stirs his cup. But I don't work for you. Worse, I'm a suspect on your damn short list. I'm trying to keep an eye out for any other issues with the plague. Rick snaps back. You ever hear the saying, all work and no play? Asked the agent to either quell Rick's fury or enrage it. Yeah, who hadn't even read the book of the guy who goes nuts and writes it all over the walls? What of it? Rick calms down, focusing more on the screen, but dumps several packets of sugar into his cup. Never liked that saying myself. Kinda always found it dumb, because I loved what I do. But you're not doing this because you love to do it. You're doing this because what you love is at risk. You become an Ahab, looking for your white whale. The agent states with regret. This your way of telling me that I'm obsessed with bringing Jamie home? Rick finally takes his eyes off the monitor. Mainly this time so he can lock full-on eye contact with the agent. No. You're not obsessed with bringing Jamie back. If that were the case, you would be working with Alex and your team downstairs. Instead, you're up here hunting for that hacker that even the best skilled hunters in the world government can provide have taken breaks from, to find some rest for themselves. Remember, we met a few days ago. I told you we had to do some fishing. Agent Esteban tries to calm Rick, who is not resting easy on his words, as he begins to ball up his fist. Yeah, then you said you hated fishing. What of it? Rick snaps out. Well, when you fish, sometimes you need to just leave the line and hook in the water, then go on and do other things, or else you'll jump at every small ripple in the water that doesn't take your bait. Esteban starts to back up from Rick's reach. Rick in fury calms his fist, but not before tossing his full, steaming cup of coffee across the room to where it smashes against the marble floor. Fine, I get it. I haven't slept in a few hours. What is it to you? Jamie, to you, is another victim, but to me, she's more. She's a friend. She's a co-worker. Rick struggles, his mind over words. Yet Agent Esteban works to finish them for him. A what? A daughter? A lover? What is that girl to you? For God's sake, man, you have a family that hasn't even heard you speak to them for the better part of a week, let alone see them. You haven't slept in 4 days, and even then it was only a few hours. And that they only occurred because you had all the stress of the last few days also had run so hard on you that you passed out. I am not your superior, no. But in a few hours from calling her and security to forcefully lock you away till you get some rest and calm down, Esteban gives Rick a stare and says, just test me. How can I? You saw the accident reports from Sydney, and you witnessed the damage hit Alex when they faced the virus. Rick slams his hand down on the desk. Yes, and if there's one person I know that can truly deal with the virus, it's Miss Eve. This sentence marks the last straw for Rick, as he quickly turns and starts to make his way to the agent, and goes for a swing. However, Agent Esteban acts quickly, dropping his coffee and wrapping his arm around Rick's, throwing him to the side where Esteban continues to wrap his arms in a lock, holding Rick from taking any further movement threats towards him. Calm down, Mathers. I'm not your enemy, but I'm not afraid to break your neck if you try to threaten my safety again. Now tell me, what were you about to say about Jamie? What does she mean to you? that you've been given up so much for finding the hacker that brought her harm. She's vulnerable, so weak. I should know. It's Fawn. She is at her strongest, but it's a facade. A way to make a great idol shine greater. When we first met, the girl panicked at the simple task of meeting us as a team. Yet I pushed her. When Masaru and Gale chose her as a game's idol, the panic returned and she nearly broke down again. We pushed her to her breaking limit. Now she's forced to fight for her life. All the pushing we have done to her. She is in pain in a way that only those that have been by her side all this time can understand. Only now she has to go out all on her own. Rick's eyes grow glossy as he begins to relax his muscles. The agent lets go of Rick, and then he walks over to the coffee pot, picks up a new cup, and begins to pour. So you see her as a child, much like your own daughter, the one you ignore to do this hunt. Rick rubs his arms and hangs his head in a combination of defeat and disgust. No, she isn't a daughter to me. She's more like a being among which I am one of the first to witness of a moment of great history or the rise of a god. She doesn't know it, but when we met, this was to be my last effort at working on any game for Black Clover. The whole corporate attitude has grown cold. And I'm not alone in that Masaru is in the same way. But Jamie helped change that. Watching a girl overcome her fear of leaving her comfort zone and rising and becoming an idol gave us something we never thought that either of us could see. Hope and purpose. Hope that we can keep making differences in the world through creativity, and purpose to move on in the world. Gale is wrong. Hope isn't a poison. It's a warning sign not to give up, to roll up your sleeves and to push on for a new, brighter future. For yourself, or your friends and family, for the world. That is what Jamie is. Rick pauses. No. Fawn Midden means to me, and many others, that they are out there, signing up for the release of the game. But that hacker tried to destroy the light that she represented. So call me an obsessed Agent Esteban, because yeah, I'm obsessed to return our light of promise to this world. The light of pure light, which this hacker has stolen from us. Agent Esteban sits quietly stirring his cup of coffee, takes a sip before replying to Rick's words. Yeah. Okay. I guess I can understand. But why don't you take a break? After all, your light will be safe till you wake. I promise it. Even if I have to go on in the game myself to save her. No further harm will come to her while you rest. Rick shuffles his way to the elevator and presses the button. Moments later, the door opens and he walks into the glass box, just as Agent Esteban gives him some parting words. Rick, take the break to see your family. Trust me, I've seen too many long stakeouts in my past. I wish I had a family to go home to. And you have one. Rick nods as the door closes And Esteban takes another swig of his coffee. Report and access next report. So ends chapter 14. Like I said, it's probably one of our kind of longer ones. Goes into a lot more detail, but it is sort of the midpoint of the story. Because we will be returning back in the story when we come back to this in, not next week, but the week after. We'll come back to this, and we'll start with chapter 15, maybe 16 as well, where the story takes over 4 months after. So officially around the launch of the game. So I will want to thank you all for joining in, for tuning in to the story time, as we always do. If you have a story that you want to share, please comment it. Leave a comment here or on the socials. And as always, like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, for our audience, I hope you have a wonderful evening, a wonderful week, and a wonderful year.